One of the nation's leading marijuana companies has agreed to pay a $350,000 fine tied to the death of an employee who suffered an asthma attack at its Massachusetts production plant 2 years ago, according to a settlement it reached with the state's cannabis regulator. Industry giant Trulieve, which shuttered operations in Massachusetts last year, failed to meet several safety requirements at Holyoke facility, where the 27-year-old employee, Lorena McMurray, worked when she died in 2022, the Cannabis Control Commission asserted. State health officials think McMurray was the first person in the American cannabis industry to die from an asthma-related workplace incident. I would agree with that. McMurray of West Springfield had reported breathing issues while grinding and processing marijuana at the Holyoke plant, a role that exposed her to significant amounts of marijuana dust and other airborne particles. Amid a severe asthma attack, she collapsed on the job on January 4th of 2022 and never regained consciousness. She died 3 days later at a local hospital, according to a study on the incident published by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Acting Cannabis Control Commission Chair Ava Chandler Conception said on Thursday that although we cannot go back to rewrite the past, she was hopeful the settlement contributed to a better and safer industry throughout the country, not just in the Commonwealth. She and other commissioners extended their condolences to McMurray's family members who filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Trulieve last year, and the Florida-based company did not respond to a request for comment Thursday. In the past, Trulieve defended its management of the Holyoke facility, which it said had proper air filtration systems installed. Trulieve will continue to operate its facilities in a manner that fully protects the health and safety of all employees, the company said back in 2022. The penalty levied by the commission is significant, greater than the $14,500 that Trulieve agreed to pay the Occupational Safety Health Administration, or better known as OSHA, in a separate settlement late in 2022, also stemming from McMurray's death. According to Forbes, Trulieve is among the nation's largest cannabis operators, and still the company has faced struggles at a turbulent time in the pot industry. Blaming poor business, Trulieve announced last year that it would exit Massachusetts, closing dispensaries in Worcester, Northampton, and Framingham, and the more than 100,000 square foot farming and processing plant in Holyoke, where McMurray worked. The lawsuit filed by her family claimed Trulieve had failed to properly vent the facility and protect workers from the substantial amounts of airborne cannabis dust, mold, and other particulates emitted from the marijuana grinding and processing machines. In November, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health said Trulieve had not recognized and controlled ground up cannabis flower, which is used to fill pre-rolled joints, as a potential respiratory hazard. The lawsuit also targeted contractors who renovated the Holyoke's facility and installed the air filtration system, as well as the manufacturer of a marijuana grinding machine McMurray used. She had worked for Trulieve for 7 months before her death, according to the lawsuit, and while grinding cannabis buds in the Holyoke facility's pre-rolled joint production room, McMurray and other staff were routinely covered head to toe in cannabis dust and mold, the suit said. In November 2021, 2 months before her death, McMurray had an asthma attack at the facility and was brought by ambulance to a hospital for treatment, according to a lawsuit. She returned to work for the next day, and McMurray suffered another severe asthma attack at work on January 4th of 2022, despite using her asthma inhaler. McMurray's respiratory distress worsened. The CDC report on her death found that she went into cardiac arrest and lost consciousness, suffering a brain injury from which she never recovered. In its settlement with Trulieve, the Cannabis Control Commission noted several shortcomings in the company's safety proceedings. The company, however, neither admitted nor denied the deficiencies as part of the agreement. The commission said Trulieve did not adequately adjust to the hazards in its production rooms where McMurray worked following her asthma attacks. The machines for grinding and processing marijuana kicked large amounts of marijuana dust into the air, Trulieve staff noted. And however, according to the commission, the company did not recognize the dust as a potentially harmful allergen that would necessitate staff using respirators. As such, the company did not provide respirators for McMurray and other employees who worked with the machines. When McMurray returned to work from her first asthma attack, she continued struggling to breathe, coughed constantly, and took frequent breaks to use an inhaler, the commission said. According to the commission, Trulieve did not identify McMurray as a high-risk worker and did not offer her a new position within the production facility, nor did she request one. Trulieve, in a quote, Trulieve needs to be held accountable, McMurray's mother, Laura Brunel, said in a statement accompanying the family's lawsuit filed last year. It was their job to protect Lorna, she says. Alongside its November report on McMurray's death, the Department of Public Health also noted other cases of non-fatal respiratory disease among cannabis production workers in Massachusetts exposed to cannabis dust, mold, pollen, and other airborne contaminants. In a quote, the legalized cannabis industry in Massachusetts is relatively new, and the impact on the health and safety of workers demands our careful attention, Public Health Commissioner Robert Goldstein said in a statement at the time. The commission noted in its statement that Trulieve cooperated in its investigation and was voluntarily relinquishing its state-issued license to operate, which it gave up in good standing. The fine paid by Trulieve will enter the same fund as the money collected through the marijuana tax revenue, and each year 15% of the fund's revenue is directed to a special cannabis social equity trust fund, which supports marijuana business owners from communities most harshly affected by the so-called war on drugs, you guys. Well, Trulieve gets a big fine. I'm not sure if this is enough to rectify the death or whatnot of an employee, and I do feel like Trulieve is still escaping this pretty much unscathed for the most part in regards with this instance. But nonetheless, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. This is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News Hour. What do y'all think about this?
$350,000 is a slap in the face to that family.
Right? I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that. That is, I mean, they could have at least made it $420,000 if they wanted to be funny with it.
Didn't they just get $113 million? Were they bragging about getting $113 million back on their tax returns? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
Yes. But Jamie said she can't be on the show today to tell us that stupid ass story about Editor Trulieve sitting at her kitchen table making a family business, and it's like. This shit is so annoying. It doesn't matter if you have a family or not, if you're the head of a corporation that is doing dastardly shit all over the country or all over the world. Mm-hmm. I'm sure most of the people who run JP Morgan Chase, Unoco, BP, Shell Oil, Raytheon also have families, also have a kitchen table. It does not excuse their avarice, their greed, their vampiric behavior on the rest of us. And I'm glad to see Trulieve get some sort of fine. I wish they would get a bigger fine. And I'd really just like to see the general public being educated more to walk away from these MSO companies and not support them with their dollars.
Vampiric, huh? Very interesting choice of words there, Mathieu St. Germain.
Bro, they got their fangs in our necks. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not debating that. I've just said it's an interesting choice of words. I haven't heard that word before.
Well, MSG's from Transylvania.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I know he is from Transylvania and he is the immortal one. So that's why I was going there, Rico. I'm glad you picked up on that.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Mm-hmm. He used to play a lot of Magic the Gathering also.
I bet. Dr. T, I mean, What do you think an appropriate fine should have been for Trulieve to pay in regards to this through your medical experience?
Well, I mean, how do you put a price on life?
I agree with that.
It's really hard to come up with, but the issue here is scaling, right? Everyone thinks that scaling is just putting a multiplier to what you're doing. But cannabis growing is a craft, and there's some artistry to it, and you can't just multiply it by 100 or 1,000. Mm-hmm. You get issues like this where everybody's covered in dust and mold and somebody's gonna die. Mm-hmm. So I'm blaming the operators. I'm blaming Trulieve for hiring somebody who just put a multiplier and just made it bigger without really paying attention to what happens.
Yeah, did you notice in the article how they tried to pass the buck, saying how they were like, yeah, we didn't move her position, but at the same time, she didn't request to be moved either.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
just
that was
ignorant.
kind of like a jab, like a low blow, like passing the buck, like we're not responsible. It wasn't our fault. Da 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 da.
Right.
Yeah, they just saw the
Corporations
great-
don't really care about worker safety. That's why unions came about in the early
Jason.
1900s, because
Jason.
corporations and business owners only care about the bottom line.
Yeah, don't have me going.
There are
unions.
occasional exceptions, like Costco is a glorious standout. There's some local places around here, but for the most part, these corporations and business owners will only do what is legally required of them. Again, that's a big reason for unions, and I know like a lot of people like to shoot down unions. There has been a lot of corruption infiltrating the unions, et cetera. But
a lot
these
of
unions are the
fleecing.
reason for the 40-hour work week. They're the reason for time off. They're the reason for a lot of the things that American workers rely on to make it through lives.
Yeah, especially in these cases when there's a massive imbalance of power. Unionize.
Oh boy.
And then if they were making some good weed, at least you went out. But they were making bad weed.
Fair enough. I mean, lots of mold. I mean, I could just. Oh
Keef
man,
dust,
I feel
mold.
so. I wish we had a picture of the victim in her work attire, all covered in all that keef and dust and mold and whatnot that they alluded to in the article.
I'm kind of sad, like more like whistleblowers didn't speak up. I mean, that just goes to show that about the imbalance of power there. Like other people knew what was going on. They knew that it was not really safe breathing environment in there, and but they didn't want to lose their job.
Yeah,
That's why you got to unionize. Jason.
Well, I'm not for unions, and I'm not for unionization or any of that crap. But nonetheless, I did feel that there was another part of this article that they kind of like scapegoated around in a sense.
Also.
In there, they try. The Trulieve states that that Massachusetts is a brand new market. And it's like Massachusetts being a brand new market, and the fact that this was the first death has nothing to do with the newness of the Massachusetts market that this employee suddenly passed. Has absolutely nothing to do with it. I mean, Colorado hasn't had any deaths, and they've been doing it in this capacity since 2012. So to me, that's just like a scapegoat and just another low blow jab to the family in this article, in my opinion.
And Trulieve has been operating for over 10 years. Right?
The other issue that this story touches on, which is an important one for the industry, is OSHA compliance, right? And certainly, like, if this thing gets moved into Schedule 3 and part of the overall compliance piece of it is going to be an FDA registered facility for product production and cultivation and all that. I mean, a lot of these companies are probably behind the 8 ball when it comes to OSHA compliance. I mean, OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and certainly it's a piece of our government that's supposed to be looking out for workers and establishing policies and practices that protects workers while not over encumbering businesses with, regulatory poop, and paperwork and all that kind of shit for getting a paper cut. Oh, I got a paper cut. Now I got to fill out 10 different forms, right? But certainly OSHA compliance is going to be something that I think a lot of cannabis companies, if they're putting investment into, breathing apparatus, for example. So if you're handling large quantities of material that could be containing airborne allergens, which is probably what was the root cause of this. I don't know. I mean, again, I think any dust particle itself could be essentially responsible for this type of tragedy. But I think certainly like the bioactive component of cannabis itself, now you put that into an airborne dust particle, and you're talking about something that I think in OSHA regulatory land, you're going to have a respirator to deal with trimming. You're going to have a respirator dealing with anything that could create particulate stuff that the worker could could unfortunately breathe in and asphyxiate. So I think this does touch on that. That to me is the 800-pound gorilla in this story, is OSHA compliance. And really, if Trulieve, again, a highly capitalized MSO is having issues with OSHA compliance, can you imagine what the rest of the industry is going to be up against?
Maybe Trulieve just feels that they're above OSHA and that they can afford to pay these types of fines, so they don't need to worry about it.
They got more money than OSHA.
Oh boy. Well. You have any thoughts on this, Rachelle, before we move along?
I was just curious, like if there's a civil suit filed by the family and if this will impact that.
That's a great question. I wish we had a lawyer on today to answer that. I'm not sure. I would imagine that there would be a civil suit. I could only imagine that there would be. I don't see why there wouldn't be. And I don't see how necessarily that would impact a civil suit.
I would think that there would be, because and that's probably why that they've been mum on everything. They haven't really spoken out, even when it first came out. My man Mike Crawford over at the Young Jerks out in Massachusetts, he had the father on his podcast, and he was speaking very cryptically, making sure that he knew exactly what he could not say.
Well, at the same time, when we first broke this story, when it first came out, I mean, we still that was still when Nicole was on the show. Like, so this has been some time. Whoa.
Who?
Whoa. All right, and on that, we're going to roll right into the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte. The man who made it today happens to be in here in studio with me. That is right. It is the dope dad himself. He's not changing any diapers today because he's in here with grown adults.
She's
That's
four,
right.
Man, she ain't in diapers.